Yeah.
Hey everybody, Mike Kelly here. I'm so excited to be able to talk to you today about makeups, retests, and redos. This is part 3 of my grading series. I've really enjoyed going through this process of reflection and sharing my ideas and thoughts with you on grading. I hope you've been able to check out the first 2 parts of this series. If not, feel free to go back on my YouTube channel and check out those videos. And I will continue with additional parts in upcoming videos that I post as well. But today is part 3, and I will be talking to you a little bit about makeups, retesting, and redos. I have found in my experience this is a very hot topic, sometimes controversial. The discussion really relates around what's appropriate in terms of retesting, redos, and makeup work. So I'll share from my experience as a classroom teacher. There was a time where I certainly accepted nothing late, meaning the day it was due, the period it was due, it was due. And if you didn't turn it in, you got a 0. And that 0, upon reflecting, really communicated that you mastered 0% of the content. And I didn't allow you to turn in anything late or make it up because you received a 0 for your behavior. And after I learned a lot more about grading and grading practices, I realized this was not appropriate to do, that I should not be including behaviors such as late work as part of the academic grade. And I was actually misreporting students' grades because the truth is a 0 did not represent the level of mastery that they had attained on that certain assessment or on those certain skills. So that is something that changed initially for me in terms of being able to turn in things late or make up work that they missed initially. There are many teachers, as far as makeups go, that may let students turn in things late, but they deduct points. Once again, if you're deducting points for lateness, it's now not aligned with reporting accurately the academic grade, either progress or mastery of that student. Turning things in on time is very important. Being punctual and meeting deadlines, those are all very important skills. And I think sometimes when we talk about not taking points off for late work, people confuse that with saying or sending the message that it's not important to meet deadlines or turn things in on time. It's certainly important to meet deadlines. However, it shouldn't be necessarily reported in the academic grade. It can be reported separately. So if students miss a deadline, allowing them to make it up or turn it in late is something that is appropriate. If we don't do that, we're denying students the opportunity to demonstrate learning. And my real question is, why would we ever do that? Under what circumstance would we purposely deny students an opportunity to demonstrate learning? Now, regarding makeups, late retesting and reassessing, there are many topics that come up. For example, teachers will often say, well, I gave them an opportunity to assess on that set of skills, and maybe they failed in that opportunity, so this grade accurately represents their level of mastery. Well, I would say this: if the student made a true effort to demonstrate mastery and they showed through their score or through their skills that they demonstrated on the assessment that they were unable to do so, if we don't allow an opportunity for reteaching and relearning, we're really communicating that information was really not that important. It wasn't important for us to say, hey, you know what, you didn't master it, but you still need to learn it. We say, here is your grade, that is more important than you learning this material, let's move on. The accountability piece is huge. So a lot of people think that this is what holds kids accountable. But the truth is, accountability should be related to learning. Students should be accountable to their learning, not to a grade in and of itself. And again, you can be held accountable in terms of reporting the fact that a student may have needed to retest or reassess, just as an important communication piece. But again, we want to communicate a student's level of mastery and learning accurately. So if they're able to retest and demonstrate that knowledge or skill, so a week later than we had hoped that they were able to do so, it shouldn't matter. When a child learns something should not matter. Let's be honest, when we pace out our units and lessons, we are doing that for all kids. That means we're setting one timeline for all kids. And what we know is kids learn at different rates in different ways. So we may implement our instruction and lesson plans over a 2-week period and then give the assessment. But to think that all kids should fit into that 2-week window is really inappropriate. Let's be honest, there's no scientific study behind what's an appropriate amount of time for any given unit for all kids. Teachers do a fantastic job in pacing in general, but again, when we're talking about all kids, we don't want to apply an in general approach. We can give them an assessment, and if they demonstrate they're not able to learn that material, then we have to have an opportunity to reteach them, allow them to relearn the information, reassess them, and then give the child the grade that accurately reflects the knowledge they demonstrate on that most recent assessment. And this brings up another controversial topic, is grading. Well, should I give them half credit? Should I average the two? And the answer is no. If you take your driver's license test and fail the first time, then take a retest and you pass, do you get half a license? Do they only let you drive for 12 hours a day? No, you get your full license. And this applies for many certification exams as people get older, because some people will say, well, this isn't reflective of the real world. Well, teachers can take their certification exams multiple times and they become full teachers. They get full credit for that. Real estate license, driver's license, bar exam, all of these you would call them big stakes assessments in the real world, for the most part are able to be retaken. And other examples that are a little more extreme, like, well, an Olympic sprinter doesn't get a second chance at a gold medal in the Olympics. You're right. At that level of performance, you only get one shot. And I will say to people, luckily, in my case, we're in middle school and we're not at that level. What's appropriate for a middle school child shouldn't necessarily be the same of what's appropriate for an Olympic sprinter. And people will sometimes say, well, if they don't learn it now, they'll never learn it. That has not been my experience. Again, we want students to give their best effort the first time. We want to motivate and engage them to do their best. But if they're not able to do so on the first attempt, we should give them more than one attempt. And here's where teachers will sometimes say, well, I don't have time. And they're right. And this is where we need to be able to work in, certainly as building leaders, time for relearning, reteaching, and reassessment. If a teacher is saying that they don't have time to implement these things that are really important for the students that don't master material, that is our job as building leaders to find ways to give them time to do so. I recommend one thing is when we're setting up our units and pacing things out, to look at the assessment cycle as an actual cycle, not a beginning of the unit, end of unit assessment, a line, but more of a cycle, which means when we assess students, that cycle continues, that cycle of teaching and learning continues until mastery, and only at that time does it stop, which sometimes will mean integrating innovative ways to engage students in learning during class time after an initial summative assessment, or what would have been a summative assessment. So you have time as an individual teacher to meet with kids, do some reteaching, do some maybe some tutoring, relearning for the student, and then reassess them. We can build that into the pacing of our course, and we may have to take out some other things. And there are a lot of practices that we do in our classrooms that are not as high leverage as student conferencing, small group teaching and reteaching, and reassessing. There are many things, if we're looking at things that even may be beneficial to kids but aren't as beneficial as those practices, we need to be able to prioritize those practices first. So if that means some other things need to get pushed away, so we have time for this, I think we need to evaluate the practices we do in our classrooms and which ones have the biggest impact or the most high leverage. So again, to summarize some of the points I made today, I will say allowing students to make up assignments is really important because we don't want to deny them the opportunity to demonstrate mastery and learning. Also, retests and redoing assignments, it's part of the learning cycle. Even in doctoral work, we submit dissertation drafts that we receive feedback on, and then we revise and edit and resubmit. And that process continues until we reach a certain level of mastery. So that's even at the highest level of education. There's this ongoing assessment and feedback cycle happening. To think that it's appropriate at that level, but not appropriate at, let's say, middle school level, is just not appropriate. I'll say it that way. It's inappropriate. That we need to view learning in the same way as they do at the highest levels, and also in research and design labs around the country that really look at this cycle as ongoing, testing, learning, maybe failing, and then relearning and reassessing. We certainly have our challenges with timelines and time within a schedule that we need to think about. One of the ways we eliminated some of those timelines in our school was getting rid of marking periods. We have year-long grading, which has really removed some of the barriers to these type of practices that are really effective for students. So those are some of my thoughts and ideas on makeups, retests, and redos. Feel free to comment below. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe and follow my sort of journey along as a middle school principal, and certainly this series on grading and assessment. I've been excited to be able to share with you again today, and look forward to seeing you again in the future. Have an awesome day.
Yeah. The Mike Kelly way. The Mike Kelly way. Whoa, learning how to educate, we gon' get it straight. We could do it the Mike Kelly way, the Mike Kelly way. Listen to him predicate, you gon' be amazed. We could do it the Mike Kelly way, the Mike Kelly way. Whoa, clean cut professional as what?